Hi, it's Donut, and this is part 2 on how to precision drift. Before watching this video, I highly recommend watching part 1, which serves as an introduction to precision drifting. The precision drift is a full drift started at the most shallow kart angle. It's done by maximizing tension before a drift, so we can commit to tapping the drift button as light as possible. In part 1, I explain how to do it while pre-turning without nitro. In this video, I'm going to explain how to do it while pre-turning with nitro. With nitro, the timing is a little different. This is because tension build is slower at higher speeds. In other words, turning just takes way more time the faster you go. This is a reason why we have to drift. In part 1, I explained the maximum time you should pre-turn is right before you start slowing down. Let's see how long it takes for the slowdown to start at high speed versus low speed. So at higher speed, it takes longer to reach the point where you slow down. And there is less tension built at that point. Less tension results in a deeper full drift angle. Therefore, we need to tap the drift button slightly longer when performing a pre-turned precision drift at high speed. The steps to do a pre-turn precision drift with nitro are the same as doing it at low speed but with different timing. First, you need to pre-turn longer. This also means you have to start pre-turning earlier before a drift. Tap the drift button for slightly more time. Release the drift button and direction at the same time. Let the drift end on its own. And to tell if you're doing it right, it's just like how I explained in part 1. Wide skid marks, minimal speed loss, shallow kart angle. The drift ends quickly, and instant boost should work. And with nitro, there's an additional way. You should observe the kart accelerate as it straightens out. To compensate for the deeper angle, we'll typically add an early countersteer after releasing the drift button. Most of the time, you'll just want to tap countersteer. This will keep your drift speed high while also making your drift to last a little longer compared to holding it. Quickly tapping countersteer after releasing the drift button is the fastest way to perform a pre-turn precision drift while also allowing room for adjustments. In reality, you'll need to vary your countersteer timing based on the situation. This 200 millisecond countersteer is actually quite long. This longer countersteer is used to straighten out from a deep initial kart angle. This 100 millisecond input is around the typical timing for tapping countersteer. A shorter countersteer input is needed when the initial kart angle is more shallow. This is your goal on wide 90-degree turns like the ones here on Gold Rush. However, you get the most out of a short countersteer only if the initial kart angle is shallow. Therefore, it's necessary to have a consistent long pre-turn and short drift input. Otherwise, you'll need a longer countersteer input like the previous example. Countersteering makes your line wider and the kart angle straighter, resulting in a faster drift. But it also ends your drift sooner, which may or may not be desirable. Sometimes you'll need longer and early countersteers to end drifts quickly, or space out countersteers in ways to make micro adjustments to your line. After the slice drift, I'm approaching this turn with around 50% nitro. I'll be using cut charge on the next turn to quickly get 2 nitros. But, because I'm starting at 50%, I want the first precision drift to end quickly. Because drifting slows you down, an important skill in KartRider is only drifting as much as you have to. So we want this precision drift to fill nearly exactly 50%. Therefore, I'll apply an early and long countersteer. Notice that there is a gap between countersteers in this example. Countersteering makes the line wider, therefore, releasing the countersteer keeps my line slightly inward. By keeping the line slightly inward, I'm also able to get into position to defend against the red team driver. Being able to make these micro adjustments is something that comes with experience and a lot of trial and error. As you play the game more, you'll feel the impact of these small differences in timing. And that's the end of this video. Thanks for watching.